Hello friends and welcome back. We are in episode 7 of this foundation tutorial series for ZOAPIIO. Continuing from our last episode, let's now move on to the real search page, which we had moved it down as a link. So here let's take a look. It's got a similar structure. It's got a selection box and result box, and both of them look very similar, except now this one has a few more fields. So here we have a orange, a lat long, which we had before as well. Additionally, we have this. Now this is of a type select. That means it's going to be a drop down, and the options we are leaving as blank because we don't know what the options are. They will be populated at runtime. So everything else is pretty much standard. Nothing much to talk about. Similarly, here we have an extra, which is a selection, and that also will be populated at runtime. So what we need to do right now in configuration is we need to yeah we need to register event. So under events, you can give a comma separated list of events that you are interested in. Okay. By default, the button always emits a pressed event, which you can handle without registering. But for everything else, like if it's a click on something which is not a button or submit or anything else, you should register that event. So here we want that every time this changes, we want to do something, right? So that's one. Second thing is in the results page. This time we are not binding it to the service. Okay, what we have here is something you can ignore. Actually, it's not relevant. There is a mechanism to bind a view to local structure inside your JavaScript or inside your front end. Okay, so but we're not going to be using it. I've just configured it. The source is still the slash response, which was the same before. The binding is also the same. And the binding of the inside elements is also the same. That doesn't change. Nothing changes here. Only thing that changes is that this will not be populated from a service. It's going to be populated by a data we're going to provide on the fly, right? And one more thing that we're going to do is that the button that we had here, it was a submit before, and now it's actually a button, which means we will be handling what happens when this is clicked. Okay, so this is as far as the configuration goes. Now comes into the picture this element called the page script. Okay, so with every page you can attach a page script, which is what you're looking at. And the way this script functions is it's mostly responds to events, right? Because your front end runs under the control of the ZOAPIIO runtime. Okay, you are only allowed to provide handlers for events. So there's some functions which we define. You're free to define functions. That's a JavaScript feature. Okay. So we have a function called locations. What it does is it basically gets a value of latitude, longitude, and calls this service, which is foundation x get locations. Okay, so there is a function. So before starting, let me just highlight this $.app. Okay, $.app is a global variable, and it points to your application runtime. Okay, anything you want to do, you would be making a call to this object. It's a global object, and it gets things done for you. So get data is a call. So there's a documentation. You can go to our documentation page, and check it out. And here you're allowed to you can give a service name, the type of service, and a lot of other stuff, including the post data and everything. and then you write what happens when the data arrives. Okay, so this is a JavaScript code. If you do not have knowledge of JavaScript, I would suggest you find somebody in your team, take the help of somebody who can do this work for you. We the ZOAPIIO environment is meant for non-programmers, right? Non-experts in programming. So but this looks like a serious programming type of work, but still, if you know it, it's well and good. But if you don't, you can take somebody's help. So this is where the action starts. Here, $.app.listen is what you will be doing most of the time, which is you're saying I'm registering for an event. Okay, and these events are emitted from the page wherever we have registered them. So here we are saying we are listening to change event on the home page and on this element. So whenever this thing happens, we do some stuff. We call that function get the locations, and we populate another field, which is the provider selector. Sorry, that's for provider. So so the two functions. One is for location, another is for providers. So wherever this changes, we update two fields. Similarly, we listen to the second field and we update the locations. Then we're looking to the on the pressed event of the search button in the home page. Remember, it's not a submit anymore, it's a button. So we are listening to the pressed event. Here again, where we are getting some field values, using them, parsing them, creating a request, and this time we're calling the service get codes. Okay, so this time we are calling it manually, programmatically. Earlier, it was handled automatically. Now here, what we do is the the real thing that triggers the update of the view is we have this $.app.rebuild view, and we give the name of the page, name of the view, and we provide the data inline. Okay, so this patch app context you can ignore from now because it doesn't do anything useful. So we acquire the data and we say rebuild the view from the data that is being provided inline. So this results in the creation of the view. Then finally we have the taxi book button, which is the one that appears at the end of every listing, every quotation, right? And then we get some value, do some processing, and then we invoke a page called booking, which actually handles the booking. So this, I hope you understood the concept, right? The concept is really that you have to provide JavaScript code which listens to events and does stuff which you want. Okay, so it's not a whole lot of code, and really you need to know what functions to call. Okay, so some reading up is required, but once you have it, once you've done it, then thereafter it's really not much trouble after that. So this pretty much completes our discussion on building the application that we had started building. I will sign off from this episode now. When we come back in the next episode, there is one more thing that's left for us to do, which is building the cancellation button, right? And we will look at the booking part of the process in the next episode. We will look at how the booking is handled, how the booking is saved in the database, and how, if we want to invoke the cancel function, we can do that from the mid office. So that we will do in the next or the next 2 or 3 episodes. That's all probably we will require. So I will see you in the next episode.